This week's challenge is all about ice. This video is all about creative ideas using some ice. Whether or not it's cold outside or not, if it's cold outside and you've got a puddle, you can make some quite creative pictures just using frozen puddles, or a thin piece of ice from the puddle, or if you have a bucket of water and you leave it outside the back door and you get a little bit of ice on the top of it, you take the ice out and you can use it as a filter and try taking a picture through it. So if you have, like I say, a sunset going down and there's a thin sheet of ice and you get some really, and it's trapped air bubbles in it as well, it's almost like a filter. It's actually quite creative. Or you can just take a picture of a tree through it and the different colours. Obviously what we're going to do inside today is I've thrown it in a few objects, and there's going to be a few different techniques and ideas of what you can do inside the house, which doesn't really actually take that much effort to do. If containers, and I filled them full of kettle water after it's been boiled, let it go cold, and then put it in a container and put some objects in it and let it freeze overnight. If you use kettle water, it's clearer than normal tap water. Here's some of the objects which are frozen, and we should be taking some pictures. And what happens is if you put some light through as well, it makes it stand out. There's that's a Japanese lantern, and we've got there's a flower in here which I purposely only half froze. So there you go. And we shall put some light through. If you've got a flash, it would be handy, but if not, you could even stand it on, I'll just turn the camera around, a windowsill, and take it through using natural lights. See how well that works? Just move it back again. Try not to put them on a tray, and I've left the containers here. Also, what you can do is use more than one object and only freeze half of it, so the other half sticking out. Right? All these things, you have to remember what's in the background. As you can see today, I haven't got a backdrop, I'm just using the wall. So if you haven't, I mean, it's a green wall, so it will do for what we need it for. What else have I got? Another Japanese lantern. I froze two of these in a slightly different angle. Can you see? And we have just used an old container to freeze it in, and this one's got some red berries in, right? And finally, it's a household object. I don't know if you can recognise what the object is. You will do, and I'm going to melt the top corner of this so the object sticks out and the rest is in ice still. I'll go through and show you that as well in a minute. As you can see, I've got a mobile phone on the table which I've frozen. I put it in one of these sort of containers, and I froze the bottom half first, and then I laid the phone on the top, and then I froze the top half. The phone's no good. It was destined for the bin, but it was quite a handy prop to use. I used boiled kettle water. If you've got any of these, they're quite handy, but this is standing up on its own. But some of the other things, you can clamp them at the bottom and it just stops them falling over. It's got a remote trigger, so I'm not touching it. If you haven't got one, use the timer. Camera's on the tripod. Flash is off, and it's on the quarter of a power, what it should be. The ISO is 100 because I want the best quality possible. On this particular shot, I want a black background, so I've put it up to f22 to reduce the amount of light coming in. We'll increase the field of depth, but with f22 it's going to reduce the iris, so it's going to be darker. 160 of a second speed wise, so I should take a picture That's pretty good. It's come up on the screen if you can see it there. Fairly dark background. I could go with perhaps just slightly faster, perhaps. If it 200 a second is as fast as you can really go, unless you've got a high-speed sync. The problem is you go, yeah, there you go. You're only faster than that. You start getting like a band or a stripe where the flash goes off before or after, depending which way it is round. You've got your curtain sets, curtain flash. So that's quite good. What you could do, the same thing here, you could, instead of having the flash coming from the front, you could illuminate the back. So if we do one from the back with the same settings, get the flash out of the way of the... Oh. That's why I did bring these in. These are quite handy. Just little clamps. If it's not balanced on anything, there you go. So that's what it is. I focused this in earlier, and then knocked off the focus, so I know it's pretty much spot on now, even if it's just fallen over. So I should take another picture, and the light's coming in from the back, which, yes, all right. Right, what we'll try some more different ones, perhaps with the light coming from the back, and you'll see why I want to try doing that. Right, I have another one. I've got a flower here. It's the flower I showed you a little while ago. And what I'm going to do is, rather than having the light coming in from the front, I should have the light coming in slightly from the back, or if you're using a remote trigger, you can just try experimenting. If you put it on timer, you can experiment where the light's coming in. If you haven't got a flash, you could use a torch just behind it, or get a tray, put it on a couple of books or something, put your object in the bottom of the tray and have the light source coming up from it, or even simpler still, just stand it in the window. We'll take a couple of pictures in the window in a second. So I should just hold my flash. The settings are going to be the same for this one. I don't know if you can see it, it's come up quite nice. Or you could get even closer. You could do perhaps some macro shots of it with the light through it. That might work quite well. Back to the table, and we've got, it was actually a milk carton. And I just put some berries in the top and froze it. What you tend to find is sometimes if they go a bit milky on the outside and you use a hairdryer, just something to warm the top surface up a little bit, it's clearer. It actually brings it out quite clear. As you see in this one, I've kept aperture priority, camera's on the tripod. Doesn't really need flash on this one because it's quite bright, and we've got the light coming in from the window. We could use the coat again in the background. So ISO 100, f4, focused in on it and knock the focus off. Take a picture. There you go. You can always crop the picture a little bit afterwards. You don't have to have the blue in it. If you don't want blue, you can have anything you like, or not at all. Let's just go for a clear one. Right. That's come out quite well. Or you could have a play with trying to change the light. Use a normal torch if you want to. So the light goes into the berries from the top and bounces out. That works quite well. We should do a few more examples. On this one, I've got a half frozen, it was actually a bottom of a milk container, which I've just laid a couple of bits out of the garden in. So I'm going to do the same thing, the settings are going to be the same. Aperture priority, ISO 100, f4, and this time, but I don't really want all the stuff from behind again. So what I'm going to try doing, it's not against the window, do the same sort of thing, because there is ambient light in here, but I'm going to move the flash to the front. So whether or not the camera's just a normal on-camera flash would work just as well. It doesn't need to be an off-camera flash. Alright, so I should take a picture now. Alright, so that looks, yeah, that's alright. We could, you could do a close-up part of just a part of it. You can almost imagine it's laying in a lake or something. I'll let you have a look at those in a minute. Out in the garden, I've just come across a bucket with some frozen water in it, a thin layer of, try and use them as a filter, put them in front of the lens and you move them around a little bit, or find an object, a tree or even a house or a sunset. Simple, there you go, simplest ideas work the best often, so have some fun trying. We're coming to the last of the ones which are on the table. I've got the Japanese lantern things. You could make things with ice cubes, or you could just go outside and take some frosty pictures. These are quite pretty. Freeze them in some yoghurt pots. I'm actually taking the camera off the tripod now, and the settings are going to be because you're hand holding it, so I've got a speed of 200, f8, ISO 100 again. It's not that dark in here, but to hold it, hand hold it, to be able to move and then just get some different angles. The flash is on, but it's on a very low power, just to give it a bit of cast light on it. And what's quite interesting is when you do these, is as they melt, a little bit more of them get exposed. It makes some quite interesting pictures. Or alternatively, just go outside when it's a frosty morning and take some pictures of some frost on some plants, ice in a puddle. Open the freezer door and take a picture of some frost on the inside of the door. Do some close-ups of it. But think also about the colours attached to it. That's why I use this blue coat, because obviously ice and stuff is cold. So it works quite well with the red berries, which give that warm feeling, and something blue as well in the background, which gives you the cold. The combination of the two makes a much better picture. I'll leave you with some more pictures, and hopefully you get out there and take some pictures in the winter. Whether or not it's even indoors or outdoors, it's up to you. But hopefully you have some fun trying to do some nice pictures.